Why doesn't Alabama have a lottery? It's a question that gets submitted a lot as part of Ask Alabama. The obvious answer is because enough people haven't supported a lottery in the past to make it happen, but I think people already know that. I think what they're really asking is why people wouldn't support a lottery in a state that is so desperate for revenue. And I bet they think the answer is churches, but it's a little more complicated than that. Opposition from religious organizations is obviously a factor in Alabama, where gambling is a sin and there's a church on every street corner, sometimes two. But even those that don't have a religious reason to oppose a lottery still oppose it for a couple of reasons, namely where the money comes from and where it goes. See, lottery revenue isn't magic money that falls out of the sky. So many states operate a lottery today that there's a lot of research available, and they overwhelmingly point to the same sources of lottery money: poor communities and problem gamblers. Lottery sales are always higher in areas with lots of low-income families, so much so that lottery companies long ago began targeting these demographics in hopes of boosting the player base. Some companies even schedule lotteries around the times that government benefit checks are issued. And while that is shady, even more insidious is how reliant these lotteries are on problem gamblers. A little fact that a lot of lottery organizations won't tell you is that the majority of their revenue comes from a very small percentage of players. Lotteries call these super users because the phrase gambling addicts makes them look too predatory. Studies have found that well over half of the money brought in some states as much as 80% of the sales, come from just 5 to 10% of the players, meaning these lotteries live and die off a small group of people who will blow as much as a quarter of their yearly income on lottery tickets. So in order for an Alabama lottery to be profitable, we would have to hope we can either find or create enough gambling addicts to feed off of. But there are a lot of people who may say, well, people are going to gamble, and if it's illegal here, they'll just spend their money elsewhere. It's fine as long as the money goes to a good cause, but there's the other problem. The money almost never goes where people think. A lot of states have passed lotteries to fund specific things like schools or parks. But in nearly every case, after a few years, that money just ends up back in the general fund. See, states say this money goes to schools. But let's say a school district is funded $1 million a year by the state, and the lottery brings in $500,000. Sure, that $500,000 goes to the school district, but the state pulls $500,000 of the funds they usually put in back into the general fund, leaving the general fund richer and the schools no better off. As the problem of lotteries is becoming more apparent in some states that have them, the lottery seems becoming more attractive in Alabama. A lottery amendment was very nearly put on the ballot in 2016, and only wasn't because it wasn't passed before a deadline. And some polls suggest that if put to voters today, it may actually get approved, unlike in 1999 when Alabama voters decided against a lottery. So there's a good chance you may be voting on a lottery in 2018. But for the people that think a lottery is a magic economic fix that harms no one and just improves schools, don't fool yourself. Sorry to be a buzzkill. I'm Jonathan Soboleski for Reckin.